The challenges we are facing in Nigeria is a man-made disaster. It's a failure of leadership, from the federal government to state government to local government. It's the combination of conspiracy of leadership that led us to where we are today. Virtually every sector of the economy have collapsed, even though they inherited a collapsed system. But they apply for the job from the same party. And there was no creativity in terms of rejiggling the economy, rejiggling the policy, and creating deterrence. They are aware that the country had been looted out before taking over. We never had it in the history of Nigeria, the profiteering and racketeering of the Central Bank of Nigeria, NNPC, the biggest cartel ever in the history of Nigeria recorded, that grounded the economy. CBN have no power to hijack public individuals' account. The change of the currency, the redesign of the currency, crippled the economy of Nigeria to its knees, up to the community level. People cannot bring out their chicken to sell it, nobody to buy it. People lost their memory. What happened? What was the foundation of where we are today? Those that specialize in farming are no longer farming, under two circumstances. One, the insecurity scared them from going to their farms. Two, the cost of fertilizer is beyond their purchasing power. Now, how do you compare the two? You remove subsidy on petroleum. You did not put subsidy on fertilizer that produces food for the entire country. Not too long ago, this same country fed almost the entire West African coast. When Maiduguri was in peace, you will see hundreds of trailers supplying food to West African coast. From Benin, I mean, all the borders, Ogun, Benin Republic, and what have you. Hundreds of trailers taking food to West African coast. We have a population of over 250 million, which is a plus for any nation. But when you cannot feed the population turns against the country. You have graduates. Their parents sold their property to send them to school. You did not provide any hope for them, no job for them. The private sector is dead. People are running out. Is it not a man-made disaster? It's a man-made disaster. It's a policy, it's a failed policy issue that have no human face. Less than 1% of 1% of Nigerians are looting and milking the country out, and they are known. Some of us that have worked with government, we knew clearly it is practically impossible for someone to steal 1 naira in government establishment without the connivance of the financial sector of that particular ministry or agency or parastatal. It's not possible. It's 0% possibility. Everything is traceable. Because the structure of the system of government, there's no warehouse where free money is being kept for anybody to pick. Now, the entire health sector is dead. Our best medical personnel have left the country. Yesterday, somebody came from Kefi. He was telling me Federal Medical Center in Kefi. They have no doctors right now. They have all booted out of the country. Go and check the statistics. The doctors that left Lagos, left Kano, even University of Ibadan, the premium university. My national secretary, who usually go there for me, told me that most of the doctors have left. On what ground? Was it that Nigeria is so wretched? We cannot improve the welfare of the medical doctors. We cannot improve the welfare of the security agencies that are dying for the country, to serve the country. They don't have gadget to operate. They don't have tracking system. People will be kidnapped randomly as if we are just a banana republic. There's no rules and regulations. And yet some of these security agencies are the best in the world. So our problems are entirely a man-made disaster problem. So it's easy to fix it because it's a man-made issue. It's not a natural disaster. What the leadership needs to understand is to go back and have a very fundamental retreat having meeting with the governors, making proposals will not solve the problem because they are part of the problem. The government injected billions of palliative into the states. You should go and find out how many people benefited from that palliative. Some of them one measure of rice. The most privileged ones are the ones that got one bag of rice, who are close to the government. How many billions was spent? If they spend that 2 billion they gave to states, if they spend it in training plumbers in Nigeria, in training electricians in Nigeria, in training people in fashion industries and buying sewing machine and designing machine, in training masons, in training welders, do you know how many millions it will take off the streets? How many millions? Our budget have never been people-oriented budget. It's an elitist-based budget. It's a conduit of taking the whole funds after being budgeted and approved. It has nothing to do with the ordinary people. And that is why you cannot find government, even in the state where you have a government, you hardly find a government. You see lawlessness. You can't find government in local government. You can't find government in communities. Even a councillor that was elected as a councillor feel too important to pick a call for his own community. Not to talk of a local government chairman, to pick a call of an ordinary people who can give him unfiltered, undiluted intelligence. Not talk of a commissioner, and above all a governor to pick a call of somebody from the village to give him undiluted information so that he can nip it before it gets out of hand. There is no way you can divorce governors from this massive level of poverty, insecurity in Nigeria. It's not possible. They are integral part of it. They are completely integral part of it. So it's a multifaceted situation that we are in, and it requires collectiveness from both the executive, the legislative, the judiciary, the traditional rulers, the religious scholars, the journalists, the worst of all, the politicians, to admit that they created this anarchy. It's the political class that created this anarchy that we are in today.
So invariably in Nigeria,
if the current armed forces, security, other paramilitary establishment that we have cannot contain the genesis of this crisis that have escalated, the Boko Haram that was isolated, which are metamorphosized into different facets of non-state actors challenging the state of Nigeria. Look at the quantum of money that was budgeted for hardware and software for our military and paramilitary institutions. What are the implementation stages? Now, at the stage that we are, I don't know any state where there was no deployment of military. So the military is overstretched. And then the Nigerian police force has been decimated for a very long time. I don't know any administration, apart from Shagari administration, that have invested in the Nigerian police in terms of mobility, equipments, training, retraining, their uniforms. They buy their uniform, they buy their beret, they buy their boots, they buy their uniform themselves. And you expect them to go and die for you. What is the allowance? What is the salary of the police and the army? These young army officers that are dying in the field, how much is their allowance and their salaries? And then one individual in Nigeria is stealing trillions of naira, and there was no deterrence on him. So the lack of patriotism was embedded deliberately by those who feel that nothing will happen. The psyche of people in leaders is that, look, nothing will happen. But something is happening. People are revolting. The young people on the street that cannot feed themselves are revolting. They are sending a very clear message. Countries that goes to war on 3 categories. A nation that cannot protect its citizens is vulnerable to war. A nation that cannot feed its citizens is vulnerable to war. A nation that do not embark on massive food production is very likely to go to war. Look at Ukraine before the war. How many countries is Ukraine feeding? How many farms did the federal government have right now? Are they farming because of emergency like this to release food? What stuff from the federal government? You have Ministry of Agriculture only existing in Abuja. What is the Ministry of Agriculture doing in Abuja? Why can't you decentralize it into the 6 zones and go into farmers in the 6 zones to produce massive food? So that's why I say it's a man-made issue. It's completely avoidable. Go into the Ministry of Agriculture, the budget year in, year out. What have they done with that budget? It's a massive level of insincerity. The entire package is let me loot as much as possible. The civil servants, the executive, are the champions of corruption in Nigeria. If you purge corruption in the executive arm of the government, Nigeria will be categorized as a corruption-free nation. There's no nation that is 100% free of corruption. What you need is a percentage that can give you the latitude to run the system. That's what you need. We are below the percentage. Officials of government, civil servants that have taken an oath of office are the ones taking the money out of the country. If they steal it and invest it in the country, it's even much better. How many Nigerians that have access to public funds invested it in Nigeria? Maybe the like of Aliko Dangote, maybe Elumelu and so on, and others that are reinvesting it for the citizens to benefit from it. If you look at the refinery, one of the biggest in the world today, no matter where the money comes from, it was invested in the country. Thousands of people have been employed. You better have administrator or a governor that can work 60% and maybe still 40% than to have a governor that will steal 90% and work 10%. Every country have their own challenges in terms of corruption, in terms of stability, in terms of economic policy. We are yet to define our economic policy. Comprehensively, we don't know even what it is. What is the exchange rate today officially? 1,516 officially as of today. What is it in the black market? If you check it, 1,630. And those that are going to import the goods, are they going to use the Nigerian Naira to import goods? How do you expect the cost of things to go down? And this is a country that our major source of export is crude oil. We refuse to embrace BRICS so that we can trade with the Nigerian Naira. So the Nigerian currency would be in demand. Nigeria had the opportunity to lead BRICS. We played the smart one. We smarted ourselves out of it. South Africa took it. Saudi Arabia is in BRICS. You buy with their money. United Arab, the Dubai is in BRICS. The largest commercial networks of the world are in BRICS right now. You trade with Chinese money. You trade with Russian money. You trade with Brazil money. The dynamics of the economy of the world have shifted. But we float our currency. And nothing is exchanged. Our currency was just float. When credit goes to Buhari, he refused to float the Naira. So how do you define a situation where you have over 250 million people? You cannot feed them. You cannot secure them. You can't create jobs for them. What else do you expect? Our almost large percentage of our youth have gone into drugs. Our young girls, brilliant, have gone into nasty things, prostitution and other things, not by choice, but by circumstances of trying to feed themselves, help their family, that sold their property to send them to school. It's a very pathetic, inhuman. When challenges are very strong and overwhelming, people might not see effort that are being made or that are being made, just the way I'm talking right now. But it's beyond the oppositions. It requires the collection of all the stakeholders. I'm happy to see the governors are witnessing massive protests in their states. Their states are saying we cannot afford to buy food and eat. I don't know if you have recorded when school resumes, the percentage of resumptions of schools. most of children didn't go back to school because the parents said they cannot afford school fees. So it's beyond opposition party. It has to do with our foundation as a nation. It has to do with our thinking as citizens. What are the record of voting system in Nigeria? Over 90 million registered voters. 70-something% are youth and women. This same category were the ones that voted the government because poverty has been weaponized. In an election day, people will take a simple roll of spaghetti and they will buy the conscience of the voter for 4 years. The new tactics in this country is to continue to weaponize poverty because of single election, one-day event. Election is an event, one-day event. But they will cripple you beyond your ability to connect with your senses. That is the level that we are. People cannot turn away. They cannot breathe. They are choked. The next level is the anarchy that we are running away from, which we are in, and is growing day by day. The level of migration from community is no longer to the local government or state, it's to the federal now. Searching for greener pastures that is not available. So, how do you contain these? How do you contain crime and criminality when people cannot feed themselves? It's not possible. We were having this peace before simply because people have food to eat, even if they don't have the component to make the food sweet. They will eat and they will be contented. The food is not available today. The cash to buy it is not available today. The safety of life and property is no longer available today. To travel, if you are traveling with 1,000 today, it's about 5,000. If you are taking, what do you call these taxis in Abuja, Bolt, just a drop is about 4,000 or 5,000 naira. How much do you pay the civil servant to stop the corruption? So it's a multifaceted challenge that needs to be dealt with. And then it's easy somehow when you have a decisive leader who understands the dynamics. Some of us were privileged to know this because we've been around the corridors of power, those who shape power. The dynamics of the economy is very open. What you need to do is to quick intervention in the agricultural sector, immediate and quick intervention. You have to intervene in the fertilizer sector. You have to intervene in the agricultural equipment, tractors and what have you. You subsidize. And then you have to provide some kind of direct and indirect security. And that is why, you know, this security, community security guards is very fundamental to supplement what the police, what the security agencies are doing. But they should not have power of prosecution. They should have power of arrest and to hand them over to security agencies. I don't support state police as it is today. It will speak doom for the country. Because those at the helm of affairs are responsible for degenerating security in the country. And when you give excessive power to these governors that segregate in their states somebody who is not in their own dialect or tribe, they segregate against him. And you give him excessive power. Nobody will function, no opposition will breathe. They will go and kill him and maim him. The federal force should be strengthened. The civil defense should be made fully competent. Immigration should be fully competent. Because of border issues, crime and criminality. Most importantly, the road safety must be fully competent, must be trained to carry arms. You see how they are being killed on the highway. If they have a deterrence, they have guns, somebody will stop. And they will stop crime at the high level, at the highway level, before it comes to the city. So the component that form a security must be equipped so that you have manpower that you can deploy at a specific time. If you try road safety to be a combatant, when there's a crime, what they need is to be directed to go and deal with the situation. Even our airport security should be trained as combat officers in case of emergency at the security, at the airport level. All these layers are given the dynamics of the world, the shifting of a lot of things around the world. require the nation to adjust. I saw yesterday the Senate set up a constitutional review committee. They say one senator per state to meet up with the current dynamic and the reality the country is facing. Look at the cyber crime. Nigeria is the only country that our airspace is open to all sorts of crime and criminalities. Nigeria is an endangered species because we are encircled by military takeover around the West African coast. And I thought that should have been a major inroad for the government to adjust and make sure they developed a welfare system that citizens can calm their nerves. If you take round, even Nigeria here, we used to feed Niger Republic. I don't know what's the difference between Niger and Nigeria. It's almost the same culture, the same tradition, virtually everything. They rely on Nigeria for feeding. With these sanctions now, they cannot feed. They've been begging and begging and begging. Now, what do? If we are to survive this rage of coups, it means that the government strategy must immediately and effectively, with every sense of efficiency, be changed. We have banks. You can't go to banks now and seek for loan to establish business. The interest rate is enough to kill you. Then why do we have Central Bank of Nigeria that's supposed to regulate the interest rate and regulate the banks? If you hear the revelations, how much the banks are owing, public funds, intervention. But they cannot intervene in other sectors that have economic value. I set an example, we are importing billions of milk into this country. If we take the assets of the cows and the milks we have that we can generate in this country, can feed the Nigerian population. Are we investing in that? Is it not capital intensive? Check the central bank importation of milk into Nigeria. Check the figures. You will be scared. But then domestically we can solve the problem. But for whatever reason, we narrow everything along ethnic, religious, and regional issues. We abandon the fundamentals that keeps us together as a nation. And then when there's a crisis, nobody will be safe. And that's why, even in our holy books, God have condemned those who create crisis.